back, folks, to TalkingSports.tv, where we are engaging with Uncle Ben from UncleBen'sFootball.com once again on our Football Picks weekly program. We're looking at week number 14 in the NFL. And Ben, the playoff picture is really shaping up now. Some teams go into this weekend clearly on the bubble. They win, yeah, they've got some good chances to get into the postseason now. If they don't, I think you could say so long. Am I right?
Well, yeah, there are certain teams that are on the bubble. Most of those teams are in the AFC. But, let's get into it. I mean, if you want to talk about, there's 5 teams in the AFC, 4 teams in the AFC that are 5-7. Marty, you want to kick it off and see where we go with this? I mean, when you've got 4 games left, so the best they can do is 9-7. So basically, if these teams lose a game, 9-7 might still not make it if they win out, these teams. We're talking about the New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Tennessee Titans, and the San Diego Chargers in the AFC, all 5-7.
Well, and the Jets this weekend, initially I thought that the Jets exceeded expectations under Rex Ryan. I thought the team was maybe doing a little bit better at the outset, but lately they've been horrible. To me, they've been an easy team to bet against. They haven't covered much lately, and they play the Oakland Raiders at home this week. You can get anything from 2 to 3, I think, points with the Raiders. And I know, Ben, from having talked with you off air, that this isn't a game you really like very much, but just your thoughts on Oakland at the Jets. I mean, Jets need this game badly.
Well, of course, the Jets need all their games badly, but, this is just a game I don't really like at all. I mean, Geno Smith playing horrible. The Raiders, they're the Oakland Raiders. They seem to, they grasp defeat from the jaws of victory, much like the Buffalo Bills. Of the 5-7 teams, though, the Jets, the Steelers, the Titans, and San Diego, I don't see the Jets being in the picture at all. I think Pittsburgh and San Diego have a much better chance. We'll get to those teams in a minute. But I just don't see the Jets even if they win this week, they've still got to play at Carolina. They got a tough Cleveland team that they play with, and then they got to go to Miami the final week of the season. So I don't see them winning out, going 9-7. So I don't think as far as this week goes, like I said, I don't know which side. We're talking about who's going to get in, perhaps. I don't think the Jets will get in, Marty.
Uncle Ben, we're going to leave the Steelers in Tennessee for now just because they are involved in your best bets of the week, which is coming up in our next on Football Picks. But San Diego, you've grouped them in the same category as the Jets, Steelers, and Tennessee in the AFC. They're all 5-7. They're all fighting now for their playoff lives. The Chargers are 3-point dogs this week at home against the New York Giants, who won on Sunday night. Is there anything about San Diego right now that you like? Do you think that they win this game and cover?
I do, actually. I do think the Chargers are going to play a lot better last week. They had the huge win against the Chiefs 2 weeks ago on that last drive, where it was very exciting. And everybody came back home last week against the Bengal team off a break, and we talked about it last week. The Bengals are looking pretty good. They've only lost 2 of their last, I think, 8 games, both in overtime their losses were. So this team is competitive every single week, the Bengals. They had trouble with them, the Chargers, last week. They only put up 7 points after scoring, I think, 41 the week before against the Chiefs. And I think they're going to play better this week against the sort of weakish New York Giants defense. And the Giants, I think the Giants are just going to pack it in. The interesting thing they're talking about this game is this is the Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning. They flipped and trade, when they were originally 10 years ago or whatever it was. So, that's getting a little press out here in San Diego in my backyard here. But I don't really like this game. I think the Chargers will win it, keep their playoffs hopes alive, and then lose down the road again. They got to go and play Denver. So they're not going to win out either. And I don't see the Chargers making the playoffs either, Marty. No Chargers, no Jets. Sorry.
I hear you. And no Giants. I mean, like you said, they're having an awful year.
The Giants are eliminated.
They're gone. The only reason they won a game last week, Sunday night, was because they were playing the even more pitiful Washington Redskins, who are just lamentable. I mean, that team, I don't even want to waste time talking about how bad Washington has been this season. In the NFC, Uncle Ben, there are 3 teams that are 5-7. these three teams, same position as the Jets, Steelers, Tennessee, and San Diego, as you just so nicely outlined. They need to win this weekend as well. I know Chicago's involved in one of your best bets, so we're going to save that. But what about Philadelphia and Arizona? Philadelphia plays, and Philadelphia, I think, has been an interesting story. They started out looking quite shaky with Michael Vick, as you predicted here on FootballPicks.com. You said he was finished. You said he may not play another game. You said he wasn't nearly as good a quarterback as most people had thought, and you were quite right because Nick Foles has come in as you predicted he would and has done an incredible job. The Philadelphia Eagles have been very, very good lately. They play the visiting Detroit Tigers. I have them listed as 2.5-point favorites for this Sunday. Uncle Ben, any thoughts about this game at all?
Well, yeah, Nick Foles has really done the job, and I think the Philadelphia Eagles, they had lost so many in a row at home and all that other stuff. They had lost like 14 in a row at home. That's all put by the wayside, too. They've won their last 2 games at home. It's a new regime now. They seem to be scoring quite a lot of points. They're confident now. They're 7-5, like you said. Arizona also 7-5. San Francisco, they're chasing San Francisco, and now Carolina and New Orleans are 9-3. Okay. Now, what happens if one of those teams actually sweeps the other, whoever it may be, right? That's going to be 2 losses for that team. It's still possible, okay, that Carolina or New Orleans could miss the playoffs. It is.
Wow.
Well, it is possible.
Yeah.
Mathematically,
yes.
if let's say Carolina sweeps New Orleans and New Orleans loses another game, all of a sudden they're like 10-6. Now, 10-6 might not get it done in the AFC. I don't know, because there won't be any wild card from the NFC East, you see.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, we were just talking about the Eagles now. They got Detroit this week at home. They have to play Minnesota on the road and Dallas the final week of the season. That could be the key game right there. The only reason why Dallas is ahead of them right now is because they played once and Dallas won that game. They do have identical records. I think the Eagles have a very good chance to make the playoffs. They're playing well right now. They seem to be building. Chip Kelly's finally getting something across with his team. He's been there for 5-6 months. He's found a quarterback that he can trust. That's reliable, not turning the ball over. They're playing a lot better. I think the Eagles have a very good chance to make the playoffs. And I actually would take a leaner on the Eagles this week against Detroit. Detroit had that huge win. They just blew out Green Bay on Thanksgiving Day. Another team that plays very well at home, but not so great on the road, the Detroit Lions. And I would take a leaner to the Eagles in that game. And I do think the Eagles have a very good chance to win the NFC East, Marty.
Okay, very interesting. And Arizona, another team that hasn't been bad. We mentioned Bruce Arians last week, their head coach. He has that team turned around, I think, quite a bit. He's the guy who did, I think, such a great job last year as an interim coach with the Colts. And I don't think the Colts have been as good without Arians as they were last year. And this week,
I agree with that totally.
Yeah. And this week, the Cardinals are 6-point favorites. At least that's what I have. You may have a different number at this point, Uncle Ben. But Arizona, a 6-point favorite at home against the very shoddy team, the St. Louis Rams. That they're neither here nor there. Cardinals 6-point favorite. Can the Cardinals cover that game? Because it's a big game for them.
Well, St. Louis is really disappointing this year. Now, granted, they lost their quarterback, but I don't think Sam Bradford's the man to take them there. I mean, how many chances and how many times is Sam Bradford going to get hurt? It reminds me of Chris Chandler, actually. He was maybe a pretty good quarterback like Bone China. Every time the guy gets knocked around, he always gets hurt. So
Yeah.
Very breakable, and I don't see him performing well. And, now Jeff Fisher's a great coach, one of the finest coaches as an underdog in the NFL history. His point spread numbers against the spread when he's a dog are I don't have them handy, but very, very good. But this team, Arizona, like I said, they play well at home, and they're playing at home this week. But they still have to go and play at Tennessee, and then they got to play at Seattle. We know what goes on there. And then they finish up against the San Francisco 49ers, who will be fighting themselves for a playoff position at that point. So I don't see Arizona Cardinals making the playoffs this year, Marty. It's been a pretty good season for them. Carson Palmer has overachieved, in my opinion.
Yes.
I am not a Carson Palmer fan.
Me neither.
But I got to give a little credit this year. Although last week he was back to his old tricks again. I think he threw 2 or 3 interceptions last week. But I don't see them winning. Winning maybe 2 of their last 4 games, and that's not going to be good enough to get into the playoffs in the NFC. I don't see them making it this year.
All right, let's get to Uncle Ben's best football picks this week, his hottest football picks. This is where you want to pay attention. And we mentioned 3 of the teams involved in these games because 3 of the teams involved in these games are those teams that are on the bubble that have been mentioned. One of them, the Chicago Bears, and under coach Mark Trestman, Chicago Bears, lately have been pretty mediocre. They're 5-7. They lost last week in Minnesota.
They're 6-6. Sorry, they're 6-6. The Bears. Sorry.
Oh, okay. The Bears are 6-6. Thank
yes.
you. They go in this week as 1-point underdogs, I guess, against Dallas on Monday night. What are you thinking about this game in particular, Dallas at the Bears, Uncle Ben?
Well, yeah. See, here's a team that actually is desperate for a win. Not that the Dallas Cowboys don't need to win too, but they're playing at home. The Chicago Bears, they're 6-6, and they're just on the bubble, right? They're looking out from the outside. They still have 2 teams ahead of them, Philadelphia and Arizona. We just discussed at 7-5. The Bears are 6-6, so they got to leapfrog those teams and then get in even with San Francisco or beating out one of those teams. So I just think that the Bears, they really play well. They're 3-0 straight up and against the spread on Monday nights versus the NFC Eastern foes, and including 2-0 against the Cowboys. But better yet, Monday night, get this, Marty, Monday night home teams off a division road loss, which they lost in overtime last week, Chicago, are 13-3 straight up when hosting a team off back-to-back home games. And the Cowboys are 1-11 against the spread when they're 500 or greater. We're playing off the Thursday game. So, when they play these Thursday games, the Cowboys, I don't know, maybe they have too much turkey that week and maybe a little too much time to relax or something. But after that, they're 1-7 against the spread when they come in games off a win. So not very impressive.
Wow.
I say. And the Cowboys have struggled under the Monday Night Lights lately, too, losing the money in 6 of the last 7 appearances. Marty, going 1-10 against the spread as a pick or a favorite on their last 11 Monday night games. So that is just horrendous numbers. I like the Chicago Bears +1. They need this game. The stats indicate that they're going to get it. And I just think the Bears at home, Monsters of the Midway, Monday Night Football, I like the Bears with all the pressure. They can't afford to lose even one game. And I just think they're going to get this game at home against the Dallas Cowboys on Monday night.
Sounds really good. Steelers -3 against the Dolphins. Steelers need this win badly. They're in that bubble picture that you mentioned. They're at home, laying 3. What do you think?
Well, again, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 5-7, like we said. The Miami Dolphins 6-6. Miami comes into Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh started out horribly, and they've been pretty good the last couple of months, showing that their team has never really given up. They started 0-4. Some teams pack it in when they're 0-4. Pittsburgh Steelers have not. Mike Tomlin has kept this team going. Of course, Ben Roethlisberger's a very solid quarterback, much better than Ryan Tannehill, I say. And now they're hosting a warm weather team coming up. Like I said, they're just on the bubble here. They can't afford to lose even one game. And I just think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get it done. Their defense has been pretty solid lately. Their offense has been much better since Bell came back, giving them a bit of a running game, which allows Roethlisberger some more time to find his receivers and do his little dance around the pocket and buy that extra second. And I just think, they lost last week, the Steelers. They can't afford to lose this game. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat the Miami Dolphins in the Steel City this week, -3 points.
It's true. Mike Tomlin will do anything to help the Steelers win, and even if it means faking going on the field when a guy's about to return a kick for a touchdown, something he did last week, and it was a little bit costly for him.
A lot of money, Marty.
Cost him $100,000, which is probably even more than some of our viewers bet on games in the NFL. Now, the Broncos are playing the Tennessee Titans this weekend. The Titans, in that bubble scenario, they are playing in Denver and are 12.5-point underdogs to Peyton Manning et al. What are you thinking?
Well, this is like, talk about dependable, like dependable quarterbacks. It depends. So you can count on something. People think Tom Brady, they think Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. To me, dependable is Ryan Fitzpatrick, Marty. You know why? Because I know he's going to throw 2 or 3 picks every week, and I also know that he's going to have 1 sack, strip fumble, which is going to either result in a touchdown or good field position for the opposition. So, I just love having a dependable guy I can count on, which Ryan, I'm a deer in headlights Fitzpatrick, showed up in true colors last week We had Indianapolis, and right at the end of that game, I wasn't really worried when they came down and they could have got the backdoor cover, but I knew he was going to throw the interception, and sure enough, he did.
Yeah.
And I just don't see how Tennessee is supposed to keep up with the Denver Broncos with Ryan Fitzpatrick at the helm. I say good luck with that. I'm taking the Denver Broncos. They're fighting for the home field advantage with the New England Patriots. They're not going to let up here. Winners are still covering 84% of the time. Minus 12.5 points. I say take the Denver Broncos to roll it up. I mean, they're scoring 35 points each and every week of the season, and they might score more this week against Tennessee because they're going to be turnovers all over the place for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Take the Broncos minus the 12.5. This one's easy. It's a total mismatch, Marty.
I can see exactly where you're coming from, Uncle Ben, and yeah, I mean, there's a reason that the Buffalo Bills gave up Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, smart guy, nice guy. I've talked to him many times. He, can carry on a good conversation, but a little bit over his head as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I mean, he is. You're absolutely right. He's Mr. Mistake when it comes to getting a start. He's good for interceptions and other turnovers. And at the same time, just to reiterate what you were saying, Uncle Ben, and I want to point out something as well. The Broncos, they bounced back last week beautifully after that loss to New England, that memorable loss to New England. And they looked terrific against Kansas City, particularly in the second half. I mean, Decker, 4 touchdown catches. The Broncos and Peyton Manning looked absolutely for real. I can smell an annihilation in this game as well. Broncos to win over Tennessee big, like you just said, Uncle Ben. And your very best bet last week was Denver. And I want to mention that because both you and Howard, it was the only one you guys really agreed on, and it absolutely came to fruition. So, folks, hopefully you benefited from that by watching footballpicks.com and getting both Uncle Ben's pick and Howard's pick on the Broncos. Uncle Ben saying take the Broncos again this weekend. Don't you dare worry about the 12.5 points you have to lay. Uncle Ben, we're going to take a little break now, and we're going to come back and we're going to get your thoughts about your hot picks in the NCAA. And you've got quite a few here that I see listed that should help our viewers a great deal. Folks, don't go away. We'll be right back after this.